Hello, Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. Some people film tag videos on Tag Tuesday. Some people do them on Thanksgiving Eve. So I'm here today with the Anti-TBR Tag. I've been enjoying seeing this one going around on BookTube lately. This was originally created by Nicole and her books, and I was tagged by Roz at Scally Dandling about the book, so thank you, Roz, for tagging me. I will leave links to both of their videos down below. So let's go. So question 1, a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. So I'm about to be real controversial right off the bat because my answer is Shuggie Bain. So yeah, I know everyone has read it and loved it, and I know it just won the Booker, but the premise of it just doesn't really appeal to me. Why would I want to read a story about a boy and his alcoholic mother? I mean, that sounds terrible. Weirdly, I don't mind reading plays about addiction. So, for example, stuff like A Long Day's Journey into Night, or, you know, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, or something like that. But yeah, reading a whole full-length novel about a boy who's dealing with an alcoholic mother, no hard pass for me. So yeah, Shuggie Bain. Sorry, I know it's beloved on BookTube, but yeah, I just think that's not a book for me. Question 2, a classic book or author you have no interest in reading. So I picked 2 for this. The first one is Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. Now, I have read Joyce's Dubliners, which I really loved, and I may possibly one day be up for reading Ulysses, but I don't think I will ever be interested in reading Finnegan's Wake. I feel like that's the kind of book that was written while James Joyce was cackling evilly and saying, "Ha-ha, they'll never understand it, but they'll call it brilliant." So yeah, I don't really have any interest in reading that. And the second one I picked for this was Salinger's A Catcher in the Rye, mostly because I feel like that is a book that you have to have read during your formative years to really have some sort of connection to it, because I think otherwise it's probably just going to come across as a whiny, entitled teenager being whiny and entitled. So yeah, I don't have an interest in either of those particular classics. Question 3, an author whose books you have no interest in reading. So for this I picked several authors in the fantasy genre, which I'm just not personally into. So anything by Brandon Sanderson, J.R.R. Tolkien, George R.R. Martin, anybody like that, not really interested. Sorry, it's just not my thing. Question 3.2, a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. So it's funny because I saw Sean the Bookmaniac's version of this tag yesterday, and he picked Chimamanda Adichie for this question, and I had already actually written up my answers to this. By the way, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm referring to my laptop where I have the questions pulled up. But he picked Chimamanda Adichie, and I had already had my answers to this written up, and I picked Chimamanda Adichie for this. So whatever. I'm not really copying Sean the Bookmaniac, but to echo his sentiment in this tag, I have read Adichie's work in the past, and I really enjoyed it. So this is actually difficult for me to now say that I'm no longer going to read or support her work. But since she has herself made you know, some problematic statements about trans women in the past. By the way, if you're unfamiliar for the context of this, a few years ago, somebody who was interviewing Adichie asked her, "Are trans women women?" And she said, "Trans women are trans women," which to me is very like asking a man the question of, "Are men and women equal?" And the man saying, "Well, women are equal to other women." Like, number 1, that's a tautology anyway, and number 2, you're clearly saying no. So yeah, I definitely didn't appreciate that, but because I hadn't heard anything else from her, I kind of had hoped that she had, you know, maybe read some things and evolved on that issue. But just recently, in another interview with, I believe it was The Guardian, she came out in support of J.K. Turfling, as Scott and Nell refer to her in their channel Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. So yeah, it hurts me, but Chimamanda Adichie, who is a TERF and a TERF defender, no, not interested. Not unless you know, seriously do some soul searching and, you know, issue a public apology and try to do better. Okay, so question 4, an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. So for this question, I picked Jonathan Evison, who is a writer from the Pacific Northwest. I read 2 of his books. One was This Is Your Life, Harriet Chance, which I did not like at all. And the second book of his I read was The Revised Fundamentals of Caregiving, and I felt kind of meh about it, so I don't think I'm going to be picking up anything else from him. Question 5, a genre you have no interest in or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. So for me, anything that's in the genre of dystopian or post-apocalyptic kind of fiction, I just don't, like, that does not appeal to me at all, and I really don't understand why it does appeal to a whole segment of readers. I mean, I guess I sort of get it, right, because if you're in a dystopia or like a post-apocalyptic wasteland, you sort of go back to the basic skills of survival and you don't have to worry about the same sorts of everyday petty worries that you have to worry about in your everyday life, and things in some ways get simpler. But yeah, for me, like, I don't want to read a book that has me in a dystopian future or some post-apocalyptic wasteland. That's just, it seems very unappealing to me. So yeah. Number 6, a book you have bought but will never read. So I have a book that I actually bought for an undergraduate English class on Irish literature that I have owned for well over a decade because I probably took this class in like 2006 or 2007. And it is Eureka Street by, let me see who it's by, Robert McLean Wilson. So I had actually had this book on my TBR earlier, my Goodreads TBR earlier in the year, but every time I sort of reached to, to pick it up and think about it, it just didn't seem appealing to me. And, even now I feel like it's a story about 2 guys being kind of dude bro-y, and it doesn't really seem appealing to me. Now, the only thing that would sort of compel me to read it would be that A, I've just owned it for so long and I just feel like I should read it. And B, I know it's supposed to be kind of funny, so if anyone out there has actually read Eureka Street and has positive feedback on it, please let me know that down in the comments below. So if you can convince me to read this book, I will take a chance on it, but otherwise it's probably going to be, the last book that I ever get to on my list of books that I own but haven't read yet. By the way, here's the description of it on Goodreads in case you were wondering. In a city blasted by years of force and fury, but momentarily stilled by a ceasefire, 2 unlikely friends search for that most human of needs, love. But of course, a night of lust will do. Jake Jackson and Chucky Lurgan, one Catholic, one Protestant, navigate their sectarian city and their non-sectarian friendship with wit and style. Chucky, an unemployed dreamer, stumbles into bliss with a beautiful American who lives in Belfast. Jake, a repo man with the soul of a poet, can only manage a hilarious war of insults with a Spitfire Republican whose Irish name, properly pronounced, sounds like someone choking. Brilliant, exuberant, and bitingly funny, Eureka Street introduces us to one of the finest young writers to emerge from Ireland in years. So, yeah, again, it just sounds kind of bro-y, so I don't know that that's going to be a book that I really want to read. But again, I'm open to being convinced otherwise. So if you've read it, please let me know. Alright, question 7. A series you have no interest in reading or a series you have started in DNF. So, the very first book that I read in January of this year was Harry Kemmelman's Friday the Rabbi Slept Late, which is the first in his Rabbi Small mystery series. And I liked that book fine, but I really didn't like it enough to feel compelled to continue on with the series, so I would consider that a series that I didn't finish. And then question 8, a new release you have no interest in reading. Okay, again, I already started on a controversial note, and I'm going to end on a controversial note, too. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Again, I know, it's a booktube darling, and I am truly terrible, but yeah, I've heard a lot of praise for it, but it just doesn't interest me. Sorry if you read it and liked it. I mean, I'm glad you read it and liked it, but it just doesn't sound appealing to me in terms of reading. Okay, so I'm going to tag some relatively new booktubers to do this tag. So these are people who have only had channels since September or October, so I also encourage you, if you are unfamiliar with them, to go check out their channels. And if you like what you see, you should like and or subscribe. So I'm going to tag Heidi from Heidi's Bookish Adventures. Heidi lives in Estonia, and if you watch her version of the International Booktuber tag, you can see her speak Estonian, so that's super cool. I'm also going to tag Beth Ann Bruninga Sokolar. Hopefully I did not butcher your last name. Sorry if I did. Beth Ann is a scientist and she studies bees for a living. So you should check out her channel. And I'm also going to tag Taylor at the Babbling Bee, who joined BookTube right at the start of Victober, and she enjoyed the heck out of Victober. So yeah, I tag all of you to do this tag if you're interested. And if I didn't tag you and you still want to do the tag, please feel free to go ahead and do it. I'm not tagging a bunch of other people because I feel like this tag has been making the rounds a lot lately anyway. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you all are doing well and staying healthy. Happy Thanksgiving to all. I hope you're doing good reading, whatever you're reading. And until next time, would it kill you to call you mother?